All right, folks, I've kind of gotten ahead of myself here a little bit on this video, but today I am making some bank poles for catfishing out of 1/2 inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe. So these came as 10-foot sticks. I bought 5 10-foot sticks and I cut them in half. So now I have 10 5-foot sticks. Buy the 10-foot sticks, cut them in half. It's a lot cheaper than buying the 5-foot sticks individually. So basically, in this video, I'm going to turn these plain pieces of PVC pipe into pretty sweet bank poles for catfishing. Now, fishing like this is frowned on by some people. For whatever reason, it rubs them the wrong way. I guess that's better not being rubbed at all. I don't know, but anyway, we do 99% of our catfishing with rod and reel. We release almost everything we catch. We release all the big fish we catch, but we want to put some fish in the freezer, and we're going to target channel cats on the river, and we want to catch a lot of them. That's the goal anyway. So we're going to set out some limb lines, we're going to set out some bank poles, and by making these out of PVC, you're going to spend a little extra money than what you're going to spend if you go out and cut some cane or whatnot. But if you take care of these, they'll last you a lifetime. And even with the high cost of materials right now, you can still make these for around $425 to $450 per bank pole. And like I said, they'll last a lifetime. Now I will say that I got this idea in general from another YouTube channel called Georgia Assassin. I did tweak some of the methods to get from point A to point B and made a couple of changes to it to make it my own. But the last thing I wanted to do was come on here and act like I just dreamed this up, because I didn't. But I'm going to video it anyway, and maybe it'll help you out if you're into that type of thing. And if you're not, then I'm not really sure why you're watching. But anyway, so I've taken my 10-foot pieces of PVC, I've cut them in half, and now I'm going to take one of those said pieces and I'm going to use a MAP gas torch. Obviously you can use a heat gun, whatever kind of heat source you've got that's hot enough to get the job done. And I'm going to heat up about 2-inch section on one end of this pipe. When you're using the torch, you can tell that kind of brown glossy look there. You know it's hot. And I'm going to put it in this bench vise. I'm going to crank it down. I'm going to go the right way this time. I'm going to crank it down while it's still good and hot. And I'm going to squeeze it together good and tight. I'm going to let it sit there for a few seconds. And as that PVC cools back down, it'll hold that shape. All right, give it a little bit of time to cool. I'm gonna open it up. Now we got a flat end. Hopefully this angle is good enough for you guys can see this. Now I've flattened this out for 2 reasons. One reason is later on in this video, I'm going to sharpen this to a point. And it being flat and it being sharp is going to make it easier to stick in the riverbank. Because you're going to stick this at a 45-degree angle in the riverbank, you're going to have your line and hook tied on the other end, and that's how it's going to operate. So this being flat and sharp is going to make it easier to drive in the bank, and it being closed off is going to keep it from filling full of mud every time you stick it in the bank. And that way you don't get mud and grime and grit all in your boat when you're done, and all in your garage and all that good stuff. All right, so we got this end done for now. We're going to flip it around And this don't have to be an exact science, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to measure as soon as I find the tape measure. I'm going to measure down about an inch from the other end. Where'd my Sharpie go? I'm going to measure an inch from the other end. And then you're going to want to find a drill bit that is the same size or just a little bigger than these little eye bolts here. So I got these little eye bolts at Ace Hardware. You can get them at Lowe's, wherever. But these are 3/16 inch by 2 inch, which basically means that the eye is 3/16 inch wide and the shank, the threads are 2 inches long. I've already got my drill bit selected here, and you can tell it's pretty close to the same size. I already know that I'm going to have to kind of wallow the hoe out a little bit to make it work, but you want it to be a pretty tight fit. So we'll come in here at this mark I made. We'll drill all the way through. Kind of wallow it out a little bit and clean it up. So now I got a flat end on one end. I've got a hole on the other end. I'm going to stick this eye bolt through, just like that. Perfect. I'm going to put my nut on. This particular eye bolt requires a 3/8 inch wrench to tighten it up with. Tighten it down good and snug till it starts squeezing the pipe a little bit. Right, there's that step done. Now next, we're going to sharpen this end. Now there's a lot of different ways you can do this. I'm going to go outside and I'm going to use an angle grinder to do it. You can see it's already got dust on it where I've been doing it before. Probably not the worst idea to wear some kind of mask, respirator or something when doing this part. But like I said, you could use chop saw. You could use about anything really that could cut PVC to do this job. It's raining outside, so I'm going to have to go around behind the house underneath the deck and do this part to get it done, so bear with me. There you go. About 10 seconds in, you got a sharp end. So now the next thing to do is to paint it. Now this is obviously something you don't have to do. I kind of wrestled back and forth in my mind about, do I want to paint them a bright color so we can see them good, or do I want to paint them a dark color so other people cannot see them as good? And we opted with black for now. And the good thing about, if that don't work out for you, you're a can of spray paint away from making it something else. So I'm going to go back around under the deck and I'm going to paint this up, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right. Now keep in mind, this is not an art show. The only reason you're painting them is to either make them easy to see or to make them difficult to see. You're not trying to make them look pretty. So I'm going to take this one that I've already painted, and we'll get our line and whatnot tied on. And what I got for that is, this is basically just staging line. We chose black for the same reason we painted them black, just to keep everything kind of hid in the background. This is Team Catfish Power Twine, rated for 235 pounds. Got it at Walmart. I got the big roll. I think it was like $8, but you got 350 feet of it. So I'm probably going to put about 8 feet on these. To each their own, but our preference is to put the bait just barely under the surface of the water, especially live bait, because that allows it to splash around on top of the water and kind of create a commotion that'll attract the fish in. And also we find that, you know, these fish go up to the riverbank of a night to feed, and you know, the riverbank is full of snags and rocks and sticks and all this kind of good stuff. So the least amount of slack, or least amount of line that you give that fish, the least likely it is to swim up under a snag or a tree limb or a rock or a root or something and get hung up and either break off, or you lose the fish and your gear or whatever. So we usually hang our bait no more than a couple feet under the surface. If they're in the area, they're going to find it, trust me. So now I'm going to cut off about an 8-foot section of this. It's because you got to figure the pole itself is 5 foot long. You're going to drive it in the ground about a foot-ish, foot to 18 inches at a 45-degree angle. And the good thing is that you can drive, you know, if you want it shallower, you can either drive your bank pole in higher up on the bank. If you want it deeper, you can drive it in lower down, closer to the water, even in the water. And you can also, if you want it shallower, you can wrap the twine above the eyelet 4 or 5 times to adjust your length a little bit. So I'm going to find the end of this, cut off about an 8-foot section, and then I'll be right back with you. All right, I've got my 8-foot section of line cut here. I'm going to keep this pretty simple. All I'm going to tie in this is just a good square knot. And trust me, it's not going anywhere. Again, we're not targeting huge fish. There's a good chance that we could catch some big fish. But once this stuff gets wet, it's not like fishing line. It's gonna hold. But you can tie whatever knot. If you don't like a square knot, you tie whatever kind of knot you want to tie. I'm going to take this torch, and once I get it tied, and just kind of keep that from fraying a little bit, and it'll also help keep it from pulling through. Now on the other end, I'm going to go ahead and sand just one a little bit. There we go. I want to take one of these, what is it, a number 6? Sorry, it's a size 1. Swivel. And I like these in this setup for a couple reasons. One is because when you put these up, you can take your hook off easy to keep everything from getting tangled up. And it also provides you with the swivel, because one thing a catfish will do, no matter how big or small, once he gets hooked up, he's going to start spinning. And spin and spin and spin and spin until he breaks your line. This swivel will prevent him from being able to do that. So we'll tie another square knot here. Now on some of our bigger fish setups, I'd probably recommend like a 100-pound barrel swivel about halfway up the line, because I'm not sure how much pressure that this snap swivel would hold, but I would imagine it would take a big fish a long time to pull that loose. As a matter of fact, I may put my fish scales on one of these and pull on it until it fails to see how much pressure it takes to do it. But anyway, I'm going to take a 5/0 circle hook. These are just eagle claw. Put it on the other end. And then we'll either bait up with some good fresh cut bait, maybe some smaller bluegill, long ears, green sunfish, creek chubs, whatever. We're not going to use any weight because where the area we're fishing don't have a lot of current. If you're fishing heavy current or flooded area, you might want to put, I don't know, whatever size weight you think you might need up above this hook, a foot or so or whatever, just to make sure it stays down in the water. Now the only thing left is, it's a little bit contradicting to what we've been doing here, but we made these black so you can't see them. But if you check these of a night, you want to put some reflective tape on it. That way you can use your flashlight or your spotlight or whatever and find it. So right above this, that's one of the reasons I left about 1 inch up here. Take your piece of reflective tape, wrap it around. It'd probably be better, the longer you let this paint dry the better, but so we're going to wrap that around there. And there you have it. Simple enough, and like I said, it'll last forever. Then we'll take, so in the state of Kentucky, always check your rules and regulations. In the state of Kentucky, you can have 25 of these per person, or you can have 25 limb lines per person, or you can have 25 combined mix match of the two, and you have to have your customer ID number off of your fishing license on each one. Probably what we'll do on these is we'll take a gray Sharpie and just write it on here, and if that don't hold up, we'll probably get some black duct tape and just loop it around, make like a tag on it, and then take a gray Sharpie and write on it. But yeah, that's it. And it's a fun, relatively easy way to catch numbers of fish. You still have the option of catch and release if that's what you want to do, which I highly encourage. It's just that we're not doing that this time, and that's going to have to be okay. But yeah, if you like it, hit the like button. If you got any questions about it, I'm sure that I missed plenty, because you get all these ideas in your head that you're going to say on these videos, and then video comes and you forget half of it until it's over with. But yeah, all we're going to do is take these, drive them in the riverbank, let the bait hang down in the water. The flexibility of the PVC is going to prevent him from breaking the line. It's going to sit there and flex. And when you go down the riverbank at daylight the next morning to check them, you hope that this baby is is just dancing its little butt off on the riverbank. Good deal. Got about 20 more to go. We'll see you guys on the next one.